Attack on Titan is the quintessential example of what I'm going to call a transitional series. That is to say, a series whose structure, content, or perceived level of maturity is reminiscent enough to quote-unquote adult media to stand out among the usual fare aimed at teenagers, while still being similar enough to quote-unquote child media to be accessible to younger audiences. Through its uncommonly tense feeling of danger, and the way that it just barely touches on themes that are very rarely seen in media aimed at that demographic, Attack on Titan is able to act as a bridge for growing viewers looking to expand their media consumption horizons. Watching a series like this won't do much for the well-seasoned viewer, but it's mind-blowing to somebody who has little experience with this kind of storytelling. Attack on Titan might be the kind of show that makes you want to throw your teenage self into the shaming pit for how cringy it is, but series like it play an important role in our intellectual development and help to provide a lens through which we can view more mature and thematically complex series later down the line. Attack on Titan's main strength as a transitional series is its ability to create an atmosphere of danger that's unlike any of its peers. Hopefully, Attack on Titan wasn't anybody's first experience with character death, because that would have some severe psychological consequences, but it's almost unique in the way that its first few episodes make the viewer feel that anybody can die at any time. When characters die in Naruto or Sword Art Online, their deaths are dramatic and serve as major plot points that have a profound effect on the show's world. This is how death is usually handled in media, and it's what people get used to when they first start watching more mature shows. Seeing characters sucked down like hot dogs right after being assured that they were going to be important is an experience unlike anything that the average young viewer has ever seen, and it makes the series stand out as something uniquely mature when compared to other shonen series. But the trick, and what allows the series to remain so widely accessible, is that Attack on Titan isn't a gritty war drama about a species faced with extinction from an outside threat. It's a superhero show. It might have mature trappings that allow it to appeal to people looking to break out of the realm of young adult media, but at its core, Attack on Titan is a very basic story. One teenager with a tragic backstory and absent parents seeks to fight against impossible odds while learning to control superpowers he didn't know he had. Alongside his bookish, strategizing male friend and his stoic, badass female friend who is in love with him and has no other character traits, the protagonist seeks to get revenge on people who wronged him while saving the world. The story is just about as simple as it gets, which is part of what allows Attack on Titan to be as bold as it is with its tone. Although the presentation of the story might be shocking, the story itself is familiar, which allows the presentation to stand out more. In this way, the viewer is able to draw a connection between Eren and Naruto, or Kirito, and is thus given a point of reference from which to appreciate Attack on Titan's vastly different treatment of the same kind of character. Eventually, they'll be able to do the same thing in reverse, drawing a line from Attack on Titan to Game of Thrones or Made in Abyss, which deal with similarly dangerous worlds in ways that are significantly more artful and deft. Attack on Titan develops this sense of familiarity by ensuring the viewer that Eren is no more likely to die than any other main character of a shonen series. In episode 5, Eren bravely jumps into a Titan's mouth to save his pathetic, sniveling best friend Andy, and proceeds to become supper for Old Man Smiley. We then spend episode 6, the best episode of the entire series, without Eren. This is the most shocking and impactful death in Attack on Titan, and seeing a show kill its main character this early cements the series as something truly unlike anything else on the market. Then, once the viewer has had a chance to accept that this is the most brilliant plot structure that has ever been structured, BAM! Surprise, bitch! I ain't dead, I got superpowers! While this kind of fake-out is a terrible decision in any series that wants death to mean something, the structure of it is somewhat clever for a transitional series. Having Eren get eaten is Attack on Titan's ultimate declaration that no one is safe, which firmly sets the tone of the series in the viewer's mind. Spending an episode without Eren lets this impression sink in, and doesn't immediately undercut it by revealing his Titan powers at the end of the same episode. Bringing Eren back removes the risk that the viewer is going to be turned off of the series for fear that their favorite characters will be turned into Titan feed for shock value. This lets a new viewer experience a story where everything feels very high stakes, do you get it, do you get my joke about the stakes, while still giving the impression that their emotional investment in the characters isn't going to go to waste. Attack on Titan's second major appeal as a transitional series is the way it touches on various philosophical and social issues, particularly issues of religious faith in a world that God clearly abandoned long ago. As a pretentious teenager, nothing was more important to me than getting people to believe that I was smart, and watching God get curb stomped in Attack on Titan made it pretty clear to me that this show fucks with minds. Questioning and attacking religion is one of the first places that teenagers go when they want to get woke, and with good reason, so the fact that this is the social issue that Attack on Titan chooses to focus on helps to increase its appeal among people who are seeking to expand their intellectual horizons. Even so, Attack on Titan's depiction of faith versus reason isn't in any way nuanced, which sounds dismissive, but I also don't think that's necessarily a bad thing when it comes to adolescent appeal. Depicting religion religion as inherently ridiculous and harmful is the kind of new and edgy idea that sparks something in people's minds when they first encounter it. And presenting this idea in the broadest strokes possible provides an easy entry point into the broader philosophical conversation. When it comes to philosophy, a series like Attack on Titan or Centaur no Naomi or Classroom of the Elite from this season isn't necessarily trying to challenge the viewer's position. They're trying to appeal to people who don't yet have a position and give them a starter kit, just a few simple positions that they can use to start building a worldview. Then, once they have a basic idea of whether they think this treatment of religion is right or wrong, they can move on to works with more complicated themes, like Gurren Lagann, to help develop those views further. There are a few things that Attack on Titan does to ensure its thematic accessibility. First, the religion being criticized is clearly absurd. Worshipping an inanimate object that is clearly human-made is the kind of lunacy whose destruction can be supported by even the most hesitant of budding anti-theists. Had the object of worship been an actual god or any other metaphysical concept, the church likely would have seemed too real for its destruction to appeal to anybody who wasn't already down with that sickness, which, speaking from experience, is a much smaller pool of people. Not to mention that having a wall cult is just a stellar bit of world building, so hats off to that. Second, the viewer never gets to see any of the good that the church is doing. During the refugee crisis after the fall of Shiganshina, any cult that's worth its salt would take to the streets and start handing out food, water, and Bibles to the needy. Seeing desperate people turn to Wall God in their hour of need would make the church more sympathetic and give the viewer a sense of why people actually believe this sort of thing instead of just portraying them as whacked out crazy folk. We also don't see any characters turning to faith when things get desperate. With the amount of people in the series who are clearly able to see their own deaths coming, the fact that none of them break down and start begging Wall God for forgiveness or protection is almost immersion breaking, and having somebody find peace in death through faith would have rounded out the issue by showing that there are people who believe this for literally any other reason than donkey brains. Naturally, this is a good thing from a writing standpoint, but portraying multiple perspectives on an issue comes at the expense of philosophical accessibility. Even for someone who has no experience with issues of faith, Attack on Titan's position on the matter is,
"We give thanks to the light of the divine architect. He, and he alone, protects us from the Titan scourge in proportion to our worship. Verily, innocence and obedience are all he asks."
very clear, meaning that a person doesn't have to think very hard or have much background knowledge to decide whether or not they agree with that position. Compare this to something like Psycho Pass. Psycho Pass is an incredibly tightly written series whose themes about government, technology, and civil liberty are explored in just about every way they could be. This provides an appealing vehicle of discussion for people who have the background knowledge, but is almost an impenetrable barrier to entry if you haven't read Hobbes, Bentham, Rousseau, Pascal, Nietzsche, Kierkegaard, Goethe, Foucault, and the Marquis de Sade. Having the kind of basic experience with philosophical discussion that Attack on Titan allows gives the viewer the chance to get acquainted with this kind of debate, where Psycho Pass would push them right into the deep end and watch them drown, for fun. Third is the way the series deals with the emotional trauma caused by living in such a harsh and unforgiving place. The world presented in Attack on Titan is one in which Frank Reynolds can dress up as an art critic, get stretched out on a torture rack, and snack your mom in half with no real warning or reason, which is fairly distressing. So examining how Attack on Titan deals with trauma is a natural jumping off point for any literary analysis of the work. Mental degradation and the effects of traumatic experience come thematically pre-packaged in every war story, especially when you add in giant man-eating troll dolls, so it's striking that these things are only explored in one, arguably two characters. There are three ways characters in Attack on Titan deal with trauma. Completely breaking down and losing their grip on themselves to the point where they're just flat out willing to let themselves get eaten because what's the point? Screaming, rushing into battle, and vowing to kill at least one Titan, but probably all of them, and being Reiner. We'll get to you, Reiner. The common thread between these reactions is that they are all instantaneous and emotional. Everyone knows what it's like to feel hopeless in the face of insurmountable odds. Everyone knows what it's like to be angry to the point where you want to rip the head off an overgrown lawn gnome. Everyone knows what it's like to be Reiner. I'll get to you, Reiner. The benefit of this kind of storytelling is, again, accessibility. By choosing to focus on the more visible and relatable reactions to trauma, as opposed to, say, walking down the street and seeing something in a store window that you know they would love, so you pull out your phone to send them a picture of it and then everything suddenly hits you again. Attack on Titan is able to effectively convey the emotional core of its narrative to people who, due to simply having existed for less time than older viewers, are less likely to have experienced significant loss. The one deviation from this is Reiner. I told you I would get to you, buddy. Due to his double life as both the Armored Titan and a member of the Super Bubble Action Mega Super Pals, Reiner's brain gets split. After joining the Survey Corps as a spy, he winds up legitimately caring about his fellow soldiers, which is at odds with his currently unexplained drive to kill kill all the humans as the Armored Titan. This is legit interesting, and a credit to the series, and there are two things to note about it that make it fit with Attack on Titan's role as a transitional series. First, Reiner's split personality isn't revealed until close to the end of the second season, meaning that the viewer has gotten around 30 episodes worth of screaming and breaking down to help give them a foundation from which to appreciate this bit of character development. Second is the fact that split personality disorders are a very visible and dramatic form of mental illness. It's easy to portray and easy to understand in a way that things like dissociative disorders and PTSD often aren't. While I worry that the writers are using this particular disorder specifically because it's flashy, knowing that the series is at least willing to acknowledge some of the more complex reactions to traumatic experience gives me a bit of hope that it will continue to expand the way it tackles its themes and potentially even start challenging some of the ideas that it laid out in the first season. I mean, it probably won't, but it's always nice to see a series like this grow as its viewership does, so here's hoping. Lastly, none of this is to say that Attack on Titan is good. It's edgy and shallow, with flat characters and high school level sociopolitical commentary, but I was in high school once, and I gotta say, high school level sociopolitical commentary was my jam. Just because Attack on Titan can't hold its own against Steins Gate or Gurren or Legend of the Galactic Heroes doesn't mean it doesn't have a place in the anime community. Everyone has something like Attack on Titan that seems like a total disappointment when you look back on it now, but that doesn't change the fact that it blew your mind when you were 14 and made you reevaluate how stories could be told, or even changed your views on society at large. Would Attack on Titan be a better show if it handled its themes more complexly and rounded out its characters a bit more? Absolutely. But then we would lose an easily accessible entry point not only to anime, but to non-traditional storytelling and to broader social debates, and having those is important because it's what allows our more complex media to exist and to be appreciated. We all have to start somewhere, and if you wind up starting with Attack on Titan, you could do worse. Hey you! Yeah, you! Do you like weekly videos? Do you like August? Well, have I got the weekly videos all through August for you? I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. There are 2 more weeks of Hell Month left, and I'm doing just peachy. I've got my coffee, I've got my streaming site of choice, and I've got my lovely viewership to help me through it all. It's not your fault. My computer, it broke, and I couldn't make the video last week. Who cares if I have to move into a new apartment? Who cares if I don't know when I'll even have time to pack? Who cares what friends are? August is all about you. I tried. I really tried. So sit back, enjoy my pain, and reap the rewards of liking, commenting, and subscribing. Yeah, sorry guys, the whole Hell Month thing wound up being kind of a bust, which is a real shame, because you all really deserve this whole weekly video deal all through August. I promise that I'll put out an extra video in September to make up for it, and I also have some really exciting announcements coming up that hopefully you'll all be interested in. And that's about all I have to say for now. My computer broke, and I was still moving into this new apartment, so everything went wrong all at once. But it should be fine now. I have my new mic, I'm getting some soundproofing panels, so major audio overhaul. And hopefully everything will be good in the future. I don't see why it wouldn't be, but hey, people rarely do. Anyway, we now return to your regularly scheduled programming. Enjoy. Hey you, yeah you, do you like hype? Do you like Hero Aka? Well, have I got the hype for you? For the next 2 weeks, I'm going to be going back to my roots and doing something Hero Aka related. You've been clamoring for it for a while now, and now that the first half of the second season is done, I figure it's time to get back to it. I'm still not sure which video is coming first, that'll depend on whether or not I get my new mic before it's time to record, but it will be about Hero Aka, and I think you'll enjoy it either way. An incredibly special thank you to my patrons. Doing the live streams with you guys really makes editing these things fly by. And until next time, this has been Explanation Point, signing out.